Good morning, guys. Welcome to this week's lap guide for the Sampsoid LMP3 Championship. This week we're going to the world famous Le Mans circuit, which is it's not a particular fun track to lap at on your own because this car is just not super fast and it has a lot of downforce for this track. Because normally, of course, you run this track on a very low downforce trim, which makes it challenging. So, like, because we have a maximum amount of downforce, the track is pretty easy to lap. Like, my estimate is that you are full throttle for like 80-85% of the lap. So there's not a lot to be gained, but I'll walk you through the couple small things that you can do because there are a couple, of course. As always, I'm gonna show you the raw lap first, and after that we'll go into my iRacing and we'll check another cockpit lap, and I'll walk you through it, and then we'll do a small chase lap at the end. So my fastest time was this is again purely a lap one simulation. But to be honest, because there aren't like super many corners and all, the car didn't feel too bad. But I think on low fuel and warmed up tires, you can almost go full throttle through the whole track. I think, except for the heavy braking zones, of course. But yeah, lap one feels fine as well. Like it didn't bother me as much as normally. So my fastest lap was a 3 minute 48.552. I think I pretty much nailed the lap because I don't know. I just got a lot of purples on this lap, and it just felt good. So I think it's a good lap to show you guys. So that's what we're gonna do first. We'll show you the raw lap.
was your fastest lap of the session?
Your lap time was a 3.
Oh, apologies. I had my mic muted. Okay, let's head back. Okay, so start of the lap is pretty easy. This is all flat out. T1 is flat out. As you see, you can cut quite a bit of this, but do not go all the way wide because there is a slowdown hidden somewhere here. So just leave a bit of margin and you'll be fine. Then we come into turn 2 and 3, which, in my opinion, are the most difficult corners on the circuit in basically any car. Because the car gets super light, there is a big loss of traction, and in this car, of course, the traction control kicks in massively, which just hampers your lap time. I didn't really see a way to avoid this. I've tried second and third gear out of the last corner. In third gear, you get a bit less traction control kick in, but of course, you don't even have as much engine power. So for me, it didn't really matter what I did. You use second and the DC kicks in a little bit, or you use third and the DC doesn't kick in, but lap time stays about the same. So just see what you're more comfortable with and use that. So braking point for turn 2. As you see here, you have the white line. Brake just before it. You do not want to go too fast into this corner. Just take it easy because you need all the rotation in turn 2 and 3. So just brake just before the white line. As you see, a very heavy braking zone, 85, 90%. Brake in a straight line. Start trailing off pretty soon because you wanna cut all of this on the inside. So you start trailing off, turning in, a lot of trail braking, and then you use all of this curb. The only issue is you are in a prototype car, so the car will bottom out, but it's still faster to do this. Just make sure that while your floor is on these sausage curbs, just do not use the throttle as much. As you see here, I start throttling when I'm off the curb. Like, you see how bouncy this is? So you bounce over it, and then you catch the bounce and you start mediating your throttle. Not too much, because if you throttle too much here, you'll either spin or the DC will kick in massively. So that is what you do not want. So it's a big bounce. You come down, a little bit of throttle, and You don't want to cut these too much because there is point one. There's a slowdown if you go too far. And point two is again the bounce, and there's of course a pretty long straight after this, so that's just not what you want. And you have a bit more room on the outside here to avoid this. So you go over with your right hand side tires a little bit, but do not cut it too much. Again, you have a little bit of bounce, but it's a lot less than the previous one, so you can go on throttle pretty early. I've chosen second gear for this instance, and then you just straighten out the car and go as wide as you can. Just do not go over this fake cone thingy here because that's a slowdown. So you can touch it with your left wheels, but I think it's like half of your car. That's where you get the slowdown, and that's definitely not what you want. Because that's going to be this track. Like, if you get a slowdown in lap 1 and you're leading, for example, you're going to be last by the end of the first straight. So just be careful to avoid all the slowdowns. Then, of course, it's full throttle until the next actual corner, which is right here. I don't really have a breaking point for this. You might, like, I think this is not mine, so I think this is just there always. So you could use this, like when this one starts here. Can you see that? Yes, you can. When that starts, it's kind of your breaking point. I got a pretty heavy braking zone, like about 70%. And you want to attack this inside all the way, because you want to go on throttle as early as possible, and of course you have a lot of front understeer, especially on lap 1. So if you attack this all the way, as you see, my left tires are kind of on the grass, but it's fine. Like, there's a lot of grip, and you need it to make this corner basically. So attack all the way on the inside, go on throttle super early, because you want to full throttle this all the way, which is kind of mad. Like, I don't know any other car that can do this apart from maybe the LMDH. Yeah, so full throttle, and then you want to attack this inside as well. Just stay on the right side of the bollards. The bollards are fake, but I think there's like a 1x or a slowdown if you go any further than that. It's of course a little bit bouncy because it's a high curb, but it doesn't interrupt the car. It's fine. It's full throttle. I actually left a lot of space here, so like there's a lot of room here. Like, it's pretty easy to do. And then we come into Tetra Rouge. In any other car, especially with a low downforce spec, this is always a very difficult corner because you want to carry as much speed through it as you can, because there's a very long straight after it. But in this car, with the downforce we have, you can almost take it flat out. I'm predicting, like, I think 3 or 4 laps in, you when the tires are a bit warm and the fuel goes down a little bit, you can take this flat, but on lap 1, definitely not. So what you do, as you see here, you have this white line or these lights, whatever. Just a little bit after, you start turning in very gently. You don't want to fight your steering wheel too much. You just want to ease the car in. And then there's a tiny lift to about 70, I think 60 to 70%. This should be the key. You want to attack this inside curb a little bit, but again, you cannot go too far because there is a slowdown on the inside here as well. So just find your limit, because you want to cut it as much as possible. It's tiny lift. And then just make sure your car is back on track before this curb ends, or at least half of it. And you're good to go. And then, of course, it's a whole straight to the first chicane. Again, throttle shift point to 6th gear is 254, 255 kph. That's why you need to shift. And because you're in a prototype and this car bottoms out pretty much, you want to avoid driving on the middle, because that will slow you down. It's only a small fraction, but it does. So always just keep a lane. Don't go too far to the right as well because it's just too bumpy. Just stay in the lane basically, and you're fine. And just use like one crossover point. So you want to keep the because of course this goes to the right, so you want to be on the right basically. Just to follow the curve of the track, and just pick one transition point that you go to the left later on. So you just keep going right. You can just stay to the right here the whole time. And you basically want to transition to the other side pretty late, because once you go over it, there's always that little bit of speed loss, so you kind of want to do it as late as possible because you lose the least amount of time. Again, it's all very marginal, but it's something, you know. On a track with a lot of straights, it's what you're gonna get. All right, the first chicane, the pretty proper braking zone. Braking a lot later than in cars I normally drive here. Normally, this is about your braking point in a low downforce setup in a GTE or an LMP2 or whatever. But in this car with high downforce, we start braking at the 100 board, which is kind of insane, but it just works. So braking at the 100 board, again, a very, very heavy braking zone because you have a lot of top speed, a lot of downforce, so you can peak your brakes very high. So this is 98%, whatever. Like it's close to, you can probably hit 100 easily without locking up. But of course, you can only maintain that peak brake pressure for just a little bit, because you start slowing down, you're losing downforce, and if you keep that braking up, you'll just lock the fronts. So you start going into trail brake mode, you're aiming for this curb, and you kind of want to go like half over it. Just your right hand side tires, you want your right hand side tires just over the curb. But again, you cannot have more than half of your car over the curb because you will get a slowdown. So it's all about using as much track as you can without over pushing the limits. Again, a lot of trail braking, still trail braking. When you get off the curb, you can brake a bit more, as you see here. See here, very low brake pressure, and once I leave the curb, you brake a little bit more. Then you go back into trail braking once again. Here, again, left-hand side tires, you want over the curb, because that is just the most stable position for your car, and you make the corner as small as possible, basically. And then you're looking for a very early throttle. A throttle plateau about 70%, just to find your balance and making sure you can make the corner. And then here you go full throttle. Here again, same deal. Do not go with the middle of your car over this curb because you will get a slowdown. But as you see here, I'm using the most of the track that it can give me. So this is all you can do, and it's just full throttle over the curb a little bit. Again, right hand side tires on, like, over the curb, not on it. That's just the most balanced. And like, of course, I'm on the left here because this is just the natural way the car is going. You can stay on the right here, but you're just fighting your wheel, and that will lose your top speed. So just let the car roll out. It's fine. And again here, so you're on this side. Stay on this side as long as possible before you actually go to the right hand side, which is the proper side for the next corner, of course. Again, shift point to 54 to 55. The second chicane, braking point is the 100 board, maybe even a little bit later. You can really chuck it in here. Normally, I'd always say on tracks like this, focus everything on your exit. But because we're running a high downforce spec here, it's actually worth it to kind of bomb it in there and make the most use of your entry as well, because you can gain a lot of time by aggressively entering a corner. You might lose out a bit on the straight after, but in comparison, you win more than you lose. So as you see here, it's quite a bit after the hundreds, I'd say. Let me check. Yeah, so it's like here. It's more like this fence that you can use as a braking marker, but you can yeah, you can go in pretty deep here. And then aim for the cone, and once you get to the cone, you start turning in, and you want to attack this curb again. So we basically do the same thing here. As you see, my left-hand side tire is over the curb, not on it, over it. And you want to follow the natural line of the curb. Again, when I go off the curb, I increase my brake pressure a little bit because I can. For the next corner, trail brake, and again here you're looking for just the earliest throttle you can find. You have to be careful here though. If you cut too much of the inside here, you will get a slowdown, and I find this one to be a bit more aggressive as like when you get the slowdown than other corners. Like this is a corner I frequently get it. So as you see here, I'm not really going over the curb with my tires at this point because yeah, I just want to take it careful. And then as you see here, again, throttle plateau of 75, 80% because I'm still heavily turning the wheel. So, and the second I start unwinding my wheel, I go to 100% throttle. Here again, half of your car can be on the curb and you're fine. If we go a little bit further to the left, it's a slowdown. But you just want to use as much track as possible because you can just go on throttle a lot earlier. So that's what you want to do. This is a bit bumpy, but it's perfectly safe. Like I don't think you can spin out from that. Again, here your car tracks out to the right, like naturally. So you stay to the right as long as you can. You just don't want to be riding the dotted line in the middle, basically. And then late on at the straight, you switch over. Then we come into probably the heaviest braking zone of the track. I won't be surprised if I'll be hitting 100 here, maybe. So again, you have the orange cone, that's your turn-in point. Turning very lightly, and the braking zone is basically the sharpest point of the curb. Yeah, as you see, more than 90% brakes. Brake in a straight line, aim for the outside cone, basically because you want to make this corner as wide as you can, because the exit is very important. As you see here, again, the cone is my turning point. That's basically kind of why these cones are on the track. So you reach the cone, you start turning in, you instantly start trailing off the brake, and you want to attack this inside. But again, here, this is about as close as you can get. As you see here, you don't want your car to be farther than the cones, basically, because it is a massive slowdown. You get here like 2.5 seconds, and it doesn't clear easy. So attack it, but don't be too greedy, because it will cost you a lot more than the few hundreds you gain by attacking it super hard. Again, a throttle plateau of 70%-ish until you can unwind your wheel a little bit, and then you, of course, go full throttle. You use a lot on the outside here as well. This curb is unimportant. There isn't a slowdown or a 1x if you don't touch the gravel, at least. Here again, I'm on the left side of the track because the car is naturally there, so you stay here. The only difference here is normally I'd say you only want to cross the line once or none, but you want to shorten the straight as much as possible. So what I do is you come to the first curve of the straight here and you just follow it. So you go over here and you kind of aim for this curb here, and then you stay on the right of the track, and then we come to this next curve and you move over to the left again. Just make the straight as short as possible. This corner, Indianapolis, the complex at least, it's just full throttle here still, and your braking point is basically a little bit after this curb ends. Like, you can brake a lot later. Like, I found you can brake very late in this corner, but it just hurts your exit so much that it's not really worth it. As you see here, it is definitely a little bit later than the curb. Check. So it's like a good 2 car lengths further than the than the curb ends. Pretty heavy braking zone. Once again, closing in on 100%. You want to brake towards this curb, and it's basically the end of the curbing is your turn-in point. So you start turning in, you start trailing off the brake again, attack this inside curb. Here you don't go over it because you just you have too much entry speed here. So you want to glide along this curb basically, and use all the track on exit. You can even touch the gravel a little bit without getting a 1x, and it doesn't really unsettle the car. So the track's pretty wide here. And then one of my most hated corners on this track, but in this car it's actually fine, it's not too bad. Braking zone, just before the 50 board. Again, a pretty heavy braking zone. Aim for the curb. A thing you don't want to do is, I found, this is in all cars and I don't really know why, but if you straight line this curb too long, your front wheels will just lock. I think there's just not a lot of grip on this curb. So as you see here, I'm braking very hard, and when I enter the curb, I kind of move off it to the right instantly, just to not lock up the fronts. Start trail braking. This is the only first gear corner on the track for me. Second can work as well, but I think first is just a bit more consistent. When I'm halfway through the apex, like I'm already on throttle because the entry is pretty wide. So you're just looking for that throttle point. And once you straighten up your wheel, you go full throttle. Again, a very long straight. On this straight, you can just keep on the left-hand side of the track. Just don't go over here too much because it's very bumpy. Just follow the road. And then here, as you can hear, I'm not shifting up to 6th gear because this kink is almost flat. And if you shift up to 6th gear, downshift protection will probably kick in, and you cannot shift to 5th, back to 5th pretty easily in this kink, which you have to do. So I just prefer to keep it in 5th. You might lose like 1 kph of top speed, but it's 100% worth it in this kink. So you follow this green line. Do not go too far to the left because there is a sneaky 1x here if you enter this green patch too far to the left. So I always almost aim the middle of my car to the inside of the green thing. And as you can see here, it's just playing with your throttle, knowing when you have the grip to actually make it through the corner. So just playing with the throttle, full throttle again. Like I kind of hesitated here. Like I went off and on, so I wasn't fully confident. But as you can see here, I have a lot of room left, so I probably could have made it work if I just full throttled it. Because normally, in other cars with low downforce, you want to be at least in the middle of the track here to make the next corner. But with the amount of downforce we are running, it doesn't really matter. You can be all the way over to the left, and you'll still make this kink, because this is the Porsche curves are in this downforce setting just super easy. It's just full throttle all the way basically, so it doesn't really matter where you are. Here it's all full throttle, full throttle. This one full throttle as well. You want to attack this curve a little bit because this one is an important corner. So you want to open it up as much as you can. And then here we insert a little brake just to dip the nose in and get some grip on the front tires. And then you want to basically attack this curb the whole way through. Like, you want to stay as close to the right as you can. So as you see here, I'm following the curb all the way through, playing with the throttle to keep there. I even touched the grass here a little bit just to know where I am. Still playing with the throttle to keep it all the way to the right, because if you keep it all the way to the right here, this next kink is almost flat. If you do this correctly, you can attack this inside a lot. This is, again, probably the max you can get. Like, if you get too far to the left, you get a slowdown. So attack this, and that way you can make this as well, because, again, here, if you go too far to the right, it's a slowdown. Like, it's Le Mans, it's a slowdown central. So this was actually pretty safe. There's a lot more room here. Like, you can go to the middle of this curb, I think, with the middle of your car. And then we come into the final two chicanes, which are pretty fun in this car. You can attack them pretty hard. So the braking zone for the first one is basically just before the pit line separation starts here. Again, a very heavy braking zone. And then you want to attack this first cone. Like, I think it's like half of the car cannot go over this because there's a slowdown. And in the second one, same thing. I take this one a little bit more gentle because these curves can actually bounce you up quite a bit, and the slowdown is a bit more aggressive on this one. So you see, like, I'm trying my hardest to get through this with as much speed as I can, but I want to keep my car to the right hand side of the track here to line up the last chicane. A little bit of throttle in between just to get to the corner, but you want to brake a lot earlier than you think here, because it's quite slidey in this car here for some reason. So if you brake too late, you're gonna have a horrible last chicane. So braking, not as much braking because we have slowed down from the last chicane already, so there isn't a lot of downforce. As I said, it's very slidey here, so you want to ease the car in. But then if the car is settled, you can attack this curb pretty hard. I think you kind of have to. It's very bouncy, so just watch out with the throttle inputs after you hit the bounce, because the car can get unstable. So a little bit of trail braking. Just fling your left-hand side tires over the curb. And on this one, you kind of want to brush the red curb, but not too much, because otherwise you get a very big bounce and your exit out of here will just be horrible. And then it's just using all the track, waiting for the bounce to finish a little bit before going full throttle. Straightening out your wheel, full throttle, use all the track. And that is the lap around Le Mans. I'll show you a chase cam. I'll just do it really quickly. I'll just do the corners, and I'll fast forward the straights and stuff, just so you know where the limits are, basically. Alright, so T1, as you see here, this is probably about as far as you want to go. You don't want to go, you don't want to have your wheels like close to the grass because you will get a slowdown. Braking point, white line, attack, turn 2, very early. You want to be all over the curbs. A lot of bouncing here, so just keep it easy. This one, don't attack it too much, only your right hand side tires a little bit. This one, so half your car must be inside there. This is off full throttle. Here the braking zone should be around these tire marks here. Don't brake too heavy. Attack the inside curb a lot. As you see, I'm actually touching grass here. And then it's full throttle all the way through this. This corner, just a little lift. Just find your turn-in point, attack the inside, and just don't fight your steering wheel too much. Braking zone, 100 boards, attack the inside, go on throttle early, stay in the correct lane, do not drive in the middle. Here, braking zone, 100 marker, turn in at the cone, attack the inside curb, attack the inside curb a little bit, attack the outside curb, stay in your lane. Here, the braking zone is the sharpest part of the turn. Aim all the way outside, aim for the orange cone, start turning in there, attack the inside, and go on throttle as early as you can. Here, braking zone, 2 car lengths after the curb ends. Attack the inside, start turning in at the end of the curb. Left wheels just barely hitting the inside curb. Run all the way out. Braking zone just before the 50. Move off the curb a little bit when braking. First gear and go on throttle as early as you can. So here, stay in 5th gear. Start turning in when the green starts. Do not go too far to the outside because there's a 1x. And just play with your throttle until you know you have enough front grip to make it. And then it's just full throttle through. This, full throttle easily. Full throttle easily. Then attack this inside curb all the way through. Play with your throttle to actually make that. And then full yeet through this one. Final 2 chicanes. Braking point just before that. Attack, 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 and attack. And that is the lap guide for this week, guys. Lapping this is it's pretty easy. I think this is the easiest this car has felt so far. Lapping it alone isn't super much fun, but I think the racing will be quite good because this car, of course, has a pretty high draft still. So if you can keep up with the guy in front of you, just think smart. Like if you're around the same pace, let him pull you along. Maybe catapult off each other. Especially in the first couple of laps, just don't fight too much. Stay in the draft train because if you lose the draft train, then you are basically screwed. This might be a good track to think about fuel saving a little bit in the heavy braking zones, like the first 2 chicanes, the corner after the first straight, like just lift off 100 meters earlier, and yeah, fuel save a little bit. It's Le Mans, you know, there's not a lot of racing going on. It's all about strategies and surviving the race. So I hope you have fun, guys. I won't be there Sunday because I'm going to a music festival. So I'll definitely watch back the race. Like I'll probably watch Chris's broadcast thingy, which I'm really enjoying so far. Good job, Chris. Uh, I've actually I've actually watched the barber one while making the lap guide, like when doing the laps, what I normally do. So yeah, props to Chris if you haven't seen it, which I don't think any of you still haven't, but go check him out. It's a lot of fun. All right, guys. Peace, and I'll see you next time.